The Papua New Guinea Genocide, a hidden war of extraction, racism, and slow-motion erasure. The genocide in Papua New Guinea, PNG, particularly against the indigenous Papuan peoples of the Highlands and Bougainville, is one of the most underreported, least acknowledged atrocities of the 21st century. It is not a sudden massacre like Rwanda or Srebrenica, but a slow, deliberate, and systemic destruction, a war of attrition waged through military violence, corporate exploitation, environmental destruction, and cultural erasure.
This is not just a conflict. It is genocide by other means, designed to eliminate a people who stand in the way of resource extraction, racial hierarchy, and geopolitical control. 1. The context. Who are the Papuans? Papua New Guinea is one of the most culturally and biologically diverse places on Earth, home to over 850 distinct languages, more than any other country, the last uncontacted tribes in the world, for example, the Korowai, Yali, and Mashko-Piro, a people who have lived in the region for 50,000 plus years, making them among the oldest continuous cultures on the planet. But their land sits on top of one of the richest gold and copper deposits in the world, and that has made them targets. 2. The genocide. How it's happening. The destruction of Papuan peoples is not a single event, but a multi-pronged assault involving A. Military violence and state terror, the security scam. Indonesia's occupation of West Papua since 1963. West Papua, officially Papua and West Papua provinces, was illegally annexed by Indonesia in a rigged Act of Free Choice, 1969, where 1,025 hand-picked Papuans were forced at gunpoint to vote for integration. Since then, Indonesia has waged a genocidal counterinsurgency against the Free Papua Movement, OPM, and civilians alike. Estimated deaths, 100,000 to 500,000 Papuans, from massacres, starvation, and displacement. Methods of killing. Aerial bombings. Indonesian military drops napalm and white phosphorus on villages. Extrajudicial executions. Papuan activists, students, and tribal leaders disappear or are found dead. Forced sterilizations. Indonesian military forcibly sterilizes Papuan women to reduce their population. Starvation blockades. Indonesian forces burn crops and block food supplies to starve resistance areas. PNG's complicity, the brotherly betrayal. Papua New Guinea, the independent state, has collaborated with Indonesia to suppress West Papuan refugees. PNG's military and police have raided refugee camps, deported Papuans back to Indonesia, and even participated in joint operations with Indonesian forces. Why? Because PNG's elite benefits from Indonesian and Western mining deals. For example, Porgera Gold Mine, Lahir Gold Mine. B. Corporate exploitation, the resource curse on steroids. Papua New Guinea is one of the most resource-rich places on Earth, and foreign corporations, with government backing, are stealing it. Corporations like Barrick Gold, Canada, Rio Tinto, UK/Australia, ExxonMobil, USA, Freeport-McMoRan, USA, Total Energies, France. The pattern? Project Porgera Gold Mine, Panguna Mine, Bougainville, PNG LNG Project, Grasberg Mine, West Papua, Indonesia, Papua LNG Project. Impact on Papuans. Rape, murder, and displacement of local Ipili people, river poisoning, police/military violence against protesters, which triggered the Bougainville Civil War, 1988 to 1998. 20,000 plus deaths, environmental destruction. Rio Tinto walked away with billions, leaving Bougainville in ruins. Land seizures, police violence, environmental destruction. Profits go to foreign shareholders, locals get nothing. Largest gold mine in the world. Indonesian military massacres Papuans to protect it. Rivers turn to toxic sludge. Forced displacements, police violence, environmental destruction. 1. Corporation signs deal with government, often bribing officials. 2. Military/police evict Papuans from their land, burning villages, killing resistors. 3. Mining/farming begins, rivers poisoned, forests destroyed, sacred sites desecrated. 4. Profits go to foreign shareholders. Papuans get disease, displacement, and death. C. Environmental destruction, ecocide as genocide. Deforestation. PNG has one of the highest deforestation rates in the world, driven by logging, palm oil, and mining. Result: tribes lose their food sources, sacred lands, and way of life. River poisoning. Mining waste, cyanide, mercury, poisons rivers, killing fish, causing birth defects, and spreading disease. Example: the Fly River, PNG's second largest river, is biologically dead due to Oka Tedi mine pollution. Climate displacement. Rising sea levels from climate change are drowning coastal villages, forcing Papuans into slums or refugee camps. This is not just environmental damage, it's cultural genocide. When you destroy a people's land, you destroy their identity. D. Cultural erasure, the slow death of a civilization. Language death. Of PNG's 850-plus languages, half are endangered, suppressed by Indonesian and English dominance. Christianization and Islamization. Missionaries, funded by Western and Indonesian groups, erase traditional beliefs, for example, cargo cults, ancestor worship. Forced assimilation. Papuan children are taken from their families and sent to Indonesian boarding schools, where they're beaten for speaking their native language. Stolen Generations 2.0. Papuan children are adopted by Indonesian families to erase their identity. Stolen Generations 2.0. Papuan children are adopted by Indonesian families to erase their identity. This is epistemicide, the murder of a people's knowledge system. 3. The geopolitical game. Why the world ignores this genocide. A. The Indonesian cover-up, the denial machine. Indonesia bans foreign journalists and NGOs from West Papua. Those who try to enter are arrested, deported, or killed. Indonesia rebrands genocide as counterterrorism, labeling Papuan resistance as separatist terrorists. Indonesia uses economic leverage, for example, threatening to switch from Western to Chinese-Russian arms deals, to silence criticism. E. The Western complicity followed the money. The US, UK, Australia, and Canada profit from PNG's resources, so they turn a blind eye. Example: Australia trains Indonesian Special Forces, Kopassus, the same units accused of raping and killing Papuans. Example: the US sells weapons to Indonesia despite human rights violations. Corporations, Rio Tinto, Barrick Gold, ExxonMobil, lobby governments to ignore the genocide because profit people. E. The UN's failure, the never again lie. The UN has never condemned Indonesia's occupation of West Papua. The UN's Decolonization Committee has ignored West Papua's independence claims for 60-plus years. Why? Because Indonesia is a US ally, and Papuans are not white, not Christian, and not strategic enough to matter. D. The media blackout, the invisible genocide. Major Western media, BBC, CNN, NYT, rarely cover Papua. When they do, they parrot Indonesian propaganda, e.g., Papuan separatists are violent terrorists. Social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, censor Papuan activists, flagging their posts as hate speech. Result? Most of the world doesn't even know this genocide is happening. 4. The Bougainville example. What happens when Papuans fight back? In 1988, the people of Bougainville, an autonomous region of PNG, rose up against Rio Tinto's Panguna mine, which had poisoned their rivers, displaced their people, and turned their island into a war zone. The Bougainville Civil War, 1988 to 1998. 20,000 plus Papuans killed, by PNG military backed by Australia. Indiscriminate bombings, massacres, and blockades. Rio Tinto walked away with billions, leaving Bougainville in ruins. The aftermath. Bougainville voted for independence in 2019, 98% yes. But PNG, backed by Australia, is blocking independence because Bougainville has copper, gold, and geopolitical value. Lesson? When Papuans resist, they are crushed by the full force of the state and corporations. But they keep fighting anyway. 5. What can be done? The path to justice. A. For Papuans themselves. Unite the resistance. West Papua's OPM and PNG's tribal movements must work together. Document the genocide. Film massacres, record testimonies, leak to international media. Demand a UN-supervised referendum, like East Timor in 1999. Boycott Indonesian and corporate products, for example, palm oil, gold, LNG from PNG/West Papua. B. For the international community. Sanction Indonesia, like South Africa during apartheid. Prosecute Indonesian officials at the ICC for war crimes. Support Papuan media, for example, Tabloid Jubi, West Papua Media. Divest from corporations profiting from genocide, for example, Barrick Gold, Rio Tinto, ExxonMobil. Pressure the UN to recognize West Papua's independence. C. For individuals, what you can do. Educate yourself and others. Follow at Free West Papua, at Benny Wenda, at ULMWP. Boycott Indonesian products, palm oil, coffee, tourism. Donate to Papuan organizations. For example, Free West Papua Campaign, Pacific Islands Association. Demand your government cuts ties with Indonesia until the genocide stops. 6. The bottom line. This is genocide and it's happening now. The Papua New Guinea genocide is not a relic of the past. It is ongoing, systematic, and accelerating. Indonesia is waging a slow-motion genocide in West Papua. PNG's government is complicit, selling out its own people for foreign cash. Western corporations and governments are profiting from the bloodshed. The world is silent because Papuans are Black, Indigenous, and poor, so their lives don't matter to the global elite. But Papuans are not giving up. They are still fighting for their land, their culture, and their future. The question is, will the rest of us stand with them, or will we let them die in silence? Hashtag Free West Papua, hashtag Papua Merdeka, hashtag Stop the Genocide.
Boycott Indonesian products, palm oil, coffee, tourism. Donate West Papua's independence. Pressure the UN to recognize West Papua's independence. C. For individuals, what you can do. Educate yourself and others. Follow Ash Free West Papua, As Benny Wenda, IULMWP. Boycott Indonesian products, palm oil, coffee, tourism. Donate to Papuan organizations, e.g., Free West Papua Campaign, Pacific Islands Association. Demand your government cuts ties with Indonesia until the genocide stops. 6. The bottom line. This is genocide, and it's happening now. The Papua New Guinea genocide is not a relic of the past. It is ongoing, systematic, and accelerating. Indonesia is waging a slow-motion genocide in West Papua. PNG's government is complicit, selling out its own people for foreign cash. Western corporations and governments are profiting from the bloodshed. The world is silent because Papuans are black, indigenous, and poor, so their lives don't matter to the global elite. But Papuans are not giving up. They are still fighting for their land, their culture, and their future. The question is, will the rest of us stand with them, or will we let them die in silence? Free West Papua. Papua Merdeka. Stop the genocide.